Hello world, this is Lisa Friedrichsen, your friend and computer science professor at Johnson County Community College. And if you're watching this YouTube, you're probably in my Web 124 JavaScript 2 class and wanting a little guidance on the final project. So what you're looking at now is the instructions for the final project, but I thought what I might do is complete it as if I were a student to give you an idea of what I'm looking for. The key parts of this project are that you're going to create a web page and you're going to demonstrate your mastery of these 8 course objectives. And how are you going to do that? By building a function for each course objective that demonstrates something that is in the content outline and competencies. Now, it's not going to be possible to demonstrate mastery of absolutely every detail, but I want you to give me a good example of each course objective and how you understand that course objective and can apply that in JavaScript. So now I'm going to take the role of a student, and here's my final project web page. I've got each of the 8 course objectives listed, and behind the web page, I've got JavaScript written in functions attached to event listeners that will trigger on each of these buttons. For the first course objective, which is to manipulate the DOM, I've decided to change the background color, text color, and font face for all body content. I'm going to click Objective 1 button, and that happened. If we look at our code, I've got a function for Objective 1, and then I've got a few statements here that then run on an event listener on the Ob1 button, which is this button right here. There's a number of different things you could do to prove that you understand how to manipulate the DOM. I would encourage you not to mimic what I'm doing, but please try and get a little bit creative and use your own creativity to show that you know how to use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. If you get stuck, go back into the course objectives and the content outline and competencies, and you'll see more details that might trigger more ideas on how you can address that particular course objective. I want your JavaScript to be organized in functions and run on event listeners. And I want the function to be both meaningful as well as significant. And by significant, I need it to be at least 4 lines of code and do something meaningful to the web page. Let's look at Objective 2. Add and remove hypertext markup language document node. So in this case, I'm going to create and add a footer with my name and the date to the bottom of the web page. Let's just scoot down and make sure that there's no footer down there now. And when I click Objective 2, I have added a footer element to the web page with my name and the date. Objective 3, control the BOM, the browser object model. And in this case, I'm going to display the name of the browser in the web page file location. Then I'm going to open up the home page of our school, www.jccc.edu. So let's go. I'm going to click Objective 3 button. That triggers that function. JCCC's homepage is opened up, and I've also added the browser name and the file location with my JavaScript. For Objective 4, enhance and validate form data, I'm going to make sure the user has made an entry in all 3 boxes, and if not, display a custom message. So let's pretend that I've not entered any data in any of the 3 input boxes and click Submit. Based on the entries in these boxes, I'm adding custom messages to the web page. Let's try to refresh that and put in just Lisa and submit. And now I'm just getting messages for the last name and the birthday. For Objective 5, create scripts using built-in JavaScript classes. In the outline, they identify classes as the date, number, and math class. The word class probably would have been better if we would have used objects, because date, number, and math are actually built-in JavaScript objects. But if you're coming from other programming languages, you'll recognize that a class is a blueprint for a new object. And so I think that's where our author was coming from. But my demonstration of that course objective is to determine how many years old I am today using JavaScript date and math built-in objects. I'm going to click Objective 5, and it tells me I am 26 years old on today's date. Now, I'm not really 26 years old, but my son would be 26 years old today. So I used his birthday in my JavaScript. For Objective 6, manipulate data in strings and arrays, I'm going to ask for a list of skills and count how many times the keyword web was used in the entry. Because when I go back to Objective 6, I see that we're working not only with comparing strings and working with arrays, but we're also coding regular expressions. So I tried to weave that into my example as well. So I'm going to put web designer and web developer, and my technical skills also include HTML and CSS and web apps. And I'm going to click Objective 6, and I've gone through this text. I've manipulated the text. I've compared it to a regular expression that looks for web in any capitalization, and I've identified that I've mentioned it 3 times. For Objective 7, validate JavaScript and apply advanced debugging technique. I'm a baseball fan, so I've got a box for hits and at-bats, and I'm using try, throw, catch, and finally statements in a function. So if I do something silly like this, like I've got 5 hits and 3 at-bats, and I click submit, I'm finding that my function is going to tell me that, hey, you need to enter a positive number for hits and at-bats must be greater than or equal to hits. So let's try something else. Let's try nulls in the text boxes. And again, I'm getting that same message. If I enter something that's meaningful, like hits are 3, and I got bat 4 times, then my batting average is going to calculate correctly at 0.75. The last course objective is to apply coding techniques to address JavaScript security issues. From JavaScript 1, you know that one of the main security holes with JavaScript is that you want to do all your coding to prevent XSS, cross-site scripting. You do not want to allow someone to insert and serve JavaScript to your browser that has not been vetted. I found this little example. It's pretty interesting. It's an image tag, and the actual image is already encoded in this string. It's actually the code for a transparent background. And I'm also inserting a little JavaScript here to prove that this is going to run as soon as I put it in this input box. So I'm going to copy this image tag and pop it into this text box and say click me. And I've actually run the JavaScript simply by entering it into this text box. That would be a big security hole. So we want to make our JavaScript safe by using the create text node method. And in this case, when you use the create text node method to add content to your page, no matter if the content is JavaScript code, it comes through as text on your web page. But an unsafe way to accept that entry onto your web page would be to use the inner HTML property. And let's just right click and inspect and look at our elements. And I'm going to click my selector button there and click this. I'm going to show you that the unsafe paragraph that was added actually added that content directly into my web page and also ran that JavaScript. So that was the remarkable part. The moral to the story is that you want to use the create text node method to add textual content to your web page. And if we click that paragraph, we can see that the code, even though that's an HTML tag and it includes some JavaScript, that just goes in as raw text. It's not going to run in the web page like inserting that code with the inner HTML property did. When we look at my code, you'll see that I've got one function per objective, and I'm running that function with an event listener, and I am demonstrating my mastery of each course objective with each function and event listener. For objective 8, the unsafe method was using the inner HTML property, and the safe method was using the create element, create text node methods, and then appending that text node to the document. Thank you.